solution. You're dictating to them what they want when they say they don't want it. It's ridiculous.
There is no way Israel did this.
It's unbelievable to watch.
Why is France and Germany and England supporting a Palestinian state and siding with the Arabs? Why is America screaming for a state and wanting Israel to stop the war?
I'll give you a Jewish answer and I'll give you a rational answer. We know anti-Semitism is built into the DNA of our world. Anti-Semitism is built into the fabric of the world, and it's always been here and it will always be here. There is no logic. And so when you have such deep hatred, you're blinded. You don't see reality. The same script over and over again. That's the Jewish answer. But on a more rational level, because I'm a logical person, it's hard for me to accept that. Like, I need some explanation. And I've struggled with this my whole life, which is, why do they hate us? Why? We've only done good for the world. Why do they hate us? And I heard something recently that resonated for me. It's a slightly controversial thing, and I don't know that I would say it publicly, but I'm saying it here among friends, which is that you look at history, it's the same script over and over again. What happens? There's an empire. There's the Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the Nazi Empire, the American Empire, right? There's an empire, and it's growing and growing and growing. And when it reaches kind of peak influence and it has complete world dominance, morality goes out the window, right? You have, an emperor putting people to fight to their death. You have the lack of complete moral clarity, in society, which manifests in a million different ways. We're not going to go into it now, but I think many of you can think of things in American society that are not only counterintuitive, but immoral. We just accept them because that's what happens. And then when morality goes out the window in that empire, what happens is that this empire says, we don't want morality shoved down our throat. Don't give me this Torah thing. The Bible, thou shalt not murder. I don't want it. Get this out of here. They can't kill the creator of the Torah of the Bible. They can kill the messenger. They come after the messenger. We are the messengers. We are the messengers of morality in this world. And that's not a racist kind of thing. Does the world know that it is immoral to murder or rape? Where does the world know that there's a concept called a weekend, right? It's all from the Torah. Okay, so if they don't want that morality, they come after the messenger. And then what happens? What happens next is even sadder. What happens next is we say to that empire, hey, why are you hating on us? We're just like you. In fact, we're more Roman than you, Romans. We're more Greek than you. We are more liberal than the most liberal people in America, us Jews. We're just like you. And then they say, no, you're not just like us. Let me show you that you're not just like us. We have a tool for that. It's called anti-Semitism. And then we know what happens next. So it's the same script over and over again. And unfortunately, the next stage is, as you know, pogroms and extermination of Jews. Today, there's only one reason that is not going to happen. And anybody who says never again because, Blinken or no one's going to stop it except for Israel. Let there be no mistake. And so, Israel's here, so it's not going to be the same script over and over like it was throughout the generations. But the reality is that there is that deep hatred as the messengers of morality. And so they're blinded by that hatred and the logic goes out the window. And again, we're talking about some of the most intelligent people in the world. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there's a very well-known investor in Silicon Valley who's, I would say, widely regarded as the top 5 tech investors in the world. I mean, really big name. He's not an anti-Zionist, and not that there's any difference between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, but he doesn't even hide that he's anti-Semitic. Just full-blown anti-Semitic, saying the most rape Palestinian women, horrible things. This is an intelligent guy, very intelligent guy. It's like, who are you and what do you do with this guy? When it comes to the hatred of Jews, truth goes out the window. And it's unfortunately been the case throughout the generations, throughout our history. At the end of the day, as everyone knows, the Greeks are no longer, the Romans are no longer, the Egyptians are no longer, the Nazis are. We are here, and that's going to be the case here. Us will be no longer. We will be here. We will win, as we always do.
Thanks for that, Hillel. What do you think should be done with Gaza after Hamas is defeated, and should Hezbollah be definitively addressed now?
Obviously, I don't think there's any saving. I think Palestinian society from the ground up, starting from when they're indoctrinated in school, there's no fixing that. That's just the reality. We have to work with the future. Right now, I don't on a personal level think there's any way to kind of fix that society. From a more geopolitical, whatever you want to call it, we did denazify Germany. We have done this in Japan. We have done this before. I hope we'll manage to do it. Can I say I'm optimistic? No. But we don't have a choice. And as far as militarily speaking, there are many options. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody, but to me, it seems like the best of all evils is what we did in Yehuda v'Shomron, in Judea and Samaria, or what the world calls the West Bank, which is we have security control. They have their own towns, they have their own mayors, but you lift a gun and we're in there in Jenin, or you're in there in Shechem. Like there's no, so the same thing. We can give them again, putting aside for one second the fact that they're indoctrinated and we give them the ability to live, but we have security control. It's not an ideal situation, but obviously neither is just taking over Gaza. It's a mess. There's no easy solution here. I think that would probably be the most realistic solution, to take security control of Gaza.
I do have hope as well that when you talked about denazification, I just want to agree historically that makes a lot of sense. What is your take on balancing the well-being of the captives versus long-term goals, and also bring them home versus free our captives?
So the reality is, I think we need to speak their language, and I think if there's any chance whatsoever of, and we're seeing them surrender at mass in Gaza right now. If there's any way we're going to get those hostages back, in my opinion, it's by strength. It's not by appeasing them. They that's not what they need. And it's the whole thing's one big false narrative of, oh, poor Palestinians, give me a break. Give me a break. That's not why they're attacking us. It never was why they're attacking us. And the funny thing about it all, the most ironic thing, the Palestinians don't even play that game. Listen to them. Like, there's never been a Palestinian leader ever that says, I'm going to live alongside Israel. What two-state solution? You're dictating to them what they want when they say they don't want it? It's ridiculous. And it's the same people, by the way. Here's the irony of it all. It's the same people who say that, they don't mean it. And they say they want to kill, they don't mean it. Meaning they're not to be held accountable for their words because they're like little kids, but those little kids deserve a state. Like, make up your mind. Are they a people or are they not a people? If they're a people, they need to be held accountable for their support of terror. If they're not a people, they don't deserve a state. Make up your mind. So I think if there's any chance of winning this war and getting our hostages back, it's by strength and not by signing these insane suicidal deals that are being discussed right now that I pray and hope are not accurate.
As the father of two Gen Z folks, how should we face the problem with Gen Z and Gen Alpha being overexposed to anti-Israel content? I want to say that ZOA is putting together more and more of this content on our website, zoa.org. But Hillel, how should we address that? What are the explicit ways we can help Gen Z and Gen Alpha understand the truth, the facts, as you put it, given how much they're being constantly exposed on social media to the negative views?
So on a personal level, I'll just kind of a confession, which is that I'm active on every social platform, but I've completely neglected TikTok because I just can't. I mean, how do you talk to a Gen Zer who says that he supports bin Laden? Like, what do you even say to a person like that? And you need to know where to use your resources. We're all people with finite resources. And so I'm not going to spend 5 hours, a day talking to someone who believes that bin Laden was a hero. Don't even waste your breath, right? But I want to believe that there are people out there, even Gen Zers, who have been indoctrinated. It's nothing less than indoctrination, but are still listening. It's hard to see. And I got to tell you something else. I think that, as always, we see the extremists, right? The ones that are making noise, right? They're not the majority. They're the loudest. They're the ones with the big bark. They're not biting. They're not even close to the majority. And I don't even think it's true to say that the Gen Zers, it's true that there are many, on TikTok and whatever, it's true. But I don't think that we need to reach any conclusions about Gen Z from the crazies that we see in libs of TikTok, or we see on TikTok. I mean, those are not the majority. Having said that, it's definitely a problem. I mean, we're seeing it on campuses. I don't need to tell you. And so it's a problem. It's a problem that I don't have a clear solution for. I just think that we need to do what we've always done, which is stick to the truth, even when the truth is inconvenient, meaning when Israel messes up, own it, right? Own it, no lying. And unfortunately, too many people on our side have been caught doctoring videos, and that just destroys our whole case. So we need to be very careful and stick to the truth. And I want to believe, as cliche as it might be, that truth will prevail eventually.
Yeah, and I want to pick up just briefly before I get to some of the questions on something that you mentioned in your opening. I was on a business call right after the explosion at the Chifa Hospital, and I was watching the back and forth, and people were on the call were also getting that. And I said, there is no way Israel did this. I knew that there was no conceivable way. And there was no way it could have been an accident either. There was no way Israel could have done this. I think keeping that in mind as you're watching all of this stuff churn, that the knowledge about the way Israel fights wars and the humanity with which we fight wars, never let that far.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add one sentence, and that is that any military strategist who knows how wars are conducted is looking at the ratio between militant and civilian, and that Israel, it's unheard of. This war, mark my words, this is going to be studied in military strategy courses around the world for generations. What Israel has done here is unprecedented, unparalleled. And it's true that the crazies are saying genocide, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Zero basis. And what we're doing here in terms of just surgical, it's unprecedented. It's unbelievable to watch. The numbers are just absurd. The world has never known such morality in war ever.
What can Israel do against Hezbollah and Iran when Europe and the US are led by appeasers and people that are manipulated by the Muslim Brotherhood?
So this is the kind of thing that I say to myself, I got to throw my hands up and I got to say, this is beyond me. This is bigger than me, because how do we're talking about weeks out. They're going to have a bomb in weeks. They could have a bomb in weeks, Iran. I mean, they're complete, utter lunatics. Like there's no debating that. And so this is something that for me is extremely challenging and difficult on a daily basis. I'm like, we're fighting this war, but we're really not fighting we're not fighting the actual enemy is Iran. And we're wasting our time with these little proxies, these little punks called Hamas. But in reality, we're not even dealing with the problem. So it frustrates me. It angers me. But we have the ability to prevent them from getting the bomb. And I want to believe that we will. I don't know how this plays out. I want to believe that America is going to realize that they just gave $6 billion to a bunch of lunatics who are going to destroy them. But the stupidity of politicians, not only in America, but also in America, just baffles, it's staggering. So I don't have an answer to that question, sadly. I wish I did, but I struggle with it every day. Literally on a personal level, I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we not hitting the head of the snake? But that's when I turn to the one above and I say, just do what you got to do.
Are you worried about the tech industry in Israel taking a hit due to BDS efforts? Also the universities in Israel? If this is a real concern for the Israeli economy, in your opinion? This allows you to talk about both your
So BDS, that's not the issue. It's never been the issue. And, we've seen the post of like, go try boycotting Israel. I actually wrote a post about from the river to the sea. I said, let's play this out. From the river to the sea. You wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, you turn on your phone, but it doesn't turn on because you tried to unlock it with Face ID that was developed by PrimeSense, an Israeli company that Apple acquired. So that doesn't work. You go out to your garden, you want to water your grass. That won't work because that's the technology developed by Israel, right? You can't do anything. We've seen these posts. So BDS is not an issue. It's a joke, right? You see these BDS websites powered by Wix, right? It's a joke. But the real question is how this war and just the last couple of years between Corona and judicial reform and the war, we're taking a lot of hits, this country. On a logical level, it's pretty scary. It is pretty scary. There's no question about it. But if I'm taking a step back and looking at it the way I like to look at things, we're seeing absolute miracles. Any investor that's invested in Israel, he'll tell you that Israeli tech is over-delivering, which on the one hand is like, how does that make any sense? But on the other hand, again, look at our history, right? I'm going to say it again. Egypt, it literally says in the Torah, the more we were persecuted, the more we reproduced, and the stronger we got. Literally in the Torah. That is our nature. The more they terrorize, the more we innovate. That's what we've always done. And so we're seeing the fact that like whatever percentage of the workforce has been called up to Miluim, to reserves, so the other half is overcompensating. And we're seeing Israeli tech deliver and over-deliver. And we're seeing, massive companies, Palantir and so many others, making announcements that they're pouring money into Israel. It's a scary time. There's no question about it. And obviously war is instability, and the last thing investors want is instability. I get it. But for now, and I believe that we're going to see Israel come out of this stronger because that's what we've always done. It is scary, though. There's no denying that. It's a scary situation. But for now, we're doing okay, and I believe we're going to continue to do okay.
As some of you know, as all of you know, Israel is a startup nation. Many people have said that Hillel is responsible for making it scale-up nation. Hillel is the person that carries that on.
And I want to leave you with this message, which is that, we all feel hopeless, helpless at times, all of us, including myself. But it is really important to remember something that I think is a very common misconception, which is, I'm sure we've all heard it, but people say like, I'm going to post on social media. It's just my echo chamber. What's the point, right? My friends, I'm preaching to the choir. What's the point? And I'm here to tell you that that is just fundamentally wrong. There's no other way to say it. And it's a common misconception because the way social media works, I don't think I need to tell you this, is if you share something that's impactful and meaningful, one person shares it, you've just exited your echo chamber. You now reach that person's friends, right? So when I tweet something and I get retweeted by the craziest people in a good way, I've completely exited my echo chamber. And so each and every one of us has a keyboard. And so I just want to say that, we are all deeply, deeply devastated. This is a group effort. This is a nationwide effort, the Jewish people. Those who stand with you, the Jewish people, will be blessed. Those who get in your face, Those who stand in your way in this dark hour, they'll see your light. They'll see your unity. They'll see your charity. They'll see ZOA. They'll see the amazing things that the nation is doing and how we're unifying and how 300,000 people marched in Washington and 300,000 reservists went to war. That's 600,000 people. When was the last time we had 600,000 people unified? It was at Mount Sinai when we received the Torah. Unity is our strength. And we are seeing unprecedented unity in the Jewish people right now. Those who stand with us will be blessed. Those who curse us will see our light.